Hello and welcome back to this class. So in this class we're going to be learning about the local storage and how we can store different data types ranging from strings to numbers, objects and arrays. So let's jump right into it. So in my code editor here I've created a file known as index.html and I also created another file known as index.js. So I've linked my index.js here as a script to my HTML so that I will be able to see whatever my JavaScript is doing on this HTML. So I'll just throw in a H1 here. I will say learning local storage. All right. So what is the local storage? Local storage is just a way for us to store information or data locally on our computer. Yes. So we're going to start with strings, how we can save a string in a local storage. The first thing is to declare a variable to hold that particular string. So I can say constant uh, club name. For example, this is the variable name as club name, and the club name is what? Manchester City. So I want to save this variable, this string variable in my local storage. So what to do is simply call on the local storage method, local storage dot, we use the set item method. So this set item allows us to save a particular item on our local storage. So it takes two arguments. The first one is the reference name. So just like you want to store somebody's number on your phone, you have to store the number under a reference name so that whenever you need to call that person or text that person, you don't go looking for their number. Instead, you call on the reference name and their number automatically appears. So that's how it works. So the reference name in this, I'm going to say maybe football club, football club. That will be the reference name. And what club am I going to say? Football. The club name is what I want to save in the local storage. So that's how to actually save on a local storage. Now let's see how we can retrieve this item from our local storage now. So for us to retrieve this item from our local storage, we can simply declare a variable to store it again. So constant, I'll call this my club now, my club, which is what? Local storage dot get item. So this method get item allows us to retrieve a particular item from our local storage, and it only takes one argument, which is the reference name. So in this case I'll pass in this reference of football club. So that's the reference name here because we saved this club name under this reference name of football club. So if I simply do console.log and I pass in what my club, which is the new variable holding the item coming from local storage. If I go to my index here, right click, copy path, go to my browser, paste and open, go to inspect. So you can see the club name here. That's to say we have successfully saved and retrieved that club name from the local storage. We can also delete from a local storage using the method deleting from local storage. So we can use the method of remove item. So let's say perhaps I want to first remove an item. Uh, okay, I'm thinking of the way to do it that it will actually make sense to us. Okay, we have already retrieved this. So if we try to delete this, it will not work because remember, these codes run line by line. So before it gets to the deleting, this must have run. So, but assuming I move this deleting up here, that's we want to delete before we retrieve. So here, assuming we want to delete before we retrieve now. So if I call on local storage dot remove item and then I pass in the reference name, which is football club, you're going to notice that this will return null at this level here. It will not be able to read this because before the code gets to this place, we had already removed the reference name here. So if I go back to here and I refresh, you see it shows null. That's to say we successfully removed this from the local storage. All right. So I'm going to cut this and put it here just for because I want us to be able to retrieve first. So okay, we can still do it in another way. If I want to find out if it's removed, you know, now when I do refresh, it comes back. That's because this line of code will run before it gets to remove. So perhaps I declare a new variable here, constant. I want to check club, or let's say club status. Yes, let's use club status, which is what? Local storage dot get item, and then we're passing the reference name, which is football club. So if I do console.log and I pass in club status, you're going to notice that to return null. See that, right? That means we retrieved the data, we deleted the data, and now we're trying to retrieve it again. But the data is no more stored in our local storage, so it's been deleted. Good. So that's how to do for string. The same thing applies to numbers. So if we want to save numbers, we still use this the same method here. All right. So let's go straight to arrays. So I'm going to just say same as above. Numbers work same as numbers, same as string. Yeah. Okay. Numbers uses the same method as strings. So yes, if you want to save a number, delete a number, retrieve a number, we use the same method. Even arrays also, but let me do for arrays because it's a bit more complex. No, not complex though. Like the structure is different compared to numbers. So constant, an array known as shoes, which is just gonna house some shoes like Adidas, Puma, and let's say Nike. Okay, so I want to save this now. I'll simply call on local storage dot set item, and then I pass in the array name, which is what the reference name rather, which is what, let me say favorite shoes, and then the main array, which is shoe. So to retrieve that data, constant, I can say collections, so shoe collection, which is gonna be what, local storage dot get item. So this method allows us to retrieve an item, and then we pass in the reference name, which is what, fav shoes. So here I can simply do console.log, and then I pass in shoe collections. So this is going to provide our array here. So if I refresh here, you see we have our shoe collections here. All right. So last but not the least, I'm going to do objects because object uses a slightly different approach. So first, let's declare an object constant student info, which is an object. So I'm going to have something like first name of Mike, age of 20 class of ss3. This should be a string ss3. Yeah. So I have this object now. I want to save this object. So I call on local storage dot set item, and then this takes what a method known as, okay, first of all we need to pass in the reference name. And what's the reference name? This, you can use the reference name as student, student, as student here. And then we call on JSON, that's JavaScript object notation dot stringify. The reason we use this method stringify is because we can't directly save objects to our local storage. We first have to convert it to a string. So this stringify method converts objects to string. So here we pass in the object name, which is our student info. All right, so this has successfully saved. So for us to retrieve, we call on, we declare constant to hold constant received info, which is going to be what? Local storage dot no, JSON.parse rather. JSON.parse. This converts objects back. This converts strings back to object. So remember, the first method converts object to strings. Stringify converts object to strings, and JSON.parse converts strings to objects. So here we're going to pass in local storage dot get item, then the reference name. And what's the reference name? Student. Okay, so when we do console.log and then we pass in received data, received info, we should have this student info showing in our console. So if I refresh here, yes, you see that we have this object here of student info. So assuming we want to just narrow it down a bit, we can do console.log received data, received info rather dot first name, and this will provide the student first name below. So you see Mike as the first name here. So yes, that's how to use local storage in JavaScript for objects, for arrays, for numbers and strings. Thank you. I'll see you in the next class.